Every once in a while, something special occurs, the stars align, and fate has deemed you the chosen one. In fantasy football, you never know what's going to happen year to year, what veteran player is going to let you down, what breakout rookie is going to just skyrocket, and those that believe early on are benefactors of that success, which we like to credit ourselves for being big brain geniuses, but in reality, it was just luck. Uh, that's what makes fantasy fun. And sometimes you're able to put together just a miracle team and win a championship against your peers. You see, today's video will be like no other. Today, we will put other teams aside and focus on one of the most interesting fantasy players I've ever come across in my life. First, before I begin this banter, this soliloquy of elegance, hello. Some of you are well aware of my pedigree, but for those who aren't, let me give you a rundown. I've been to the Super Bowls numerous times, even back to back. There was a time in my life where I was in 3 additional leagues, so a total of 4. One year I won every league I was in. I've been kicked out of leagues for being too good at fantasy. Now, I say all this to say because I'm a firm believer if you're going to speak on something, you should at least come from a perspective of speaking of roads you have actually traveled. And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues with what we're dealing with in today's video is people trying to hide their lack of confidence behind just trash talk and uh, you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. But let's just be clear also for these championships I've won, because I love to point this out because I know some of you that have won have done this. But anytime I can, I like to point out the fact I'm not one of you guys. This is all me. Okay? I've never bought an Excel document or macros or insider information or signed up for any fantasy help. I just want to make that clear. I know people wonder why I mention this all the time, and that's because I want those that use those methods to understand you can never compete with the real thing. You are a fraud and you don't deserve any championship you won because you needed help. For myself, you know what? Enough of me. Let's get to the subject at hand, okay? Some of you may know him as T Money, Do Work, an MMA superstar fighter, or maybe more recently Lobos. I met Lobos a long time ago, back when I was just a budding rapper with Roderick and the Killer Cam driving around, back when Halo was the game and quoting Mixtape Wayne was a equivalent to seeking validation from strangers on Twitter. Eventually we had the idea to start a league which was infused with a lot of drama and a lack of knowledge. Lobos came around later, and when he did, let me say, he was bad. Imagine Lobos in the Naruto world. He was, say, a low-tier genin with no real talent for anything. And for those that know me, I am absolutely not going to compare Lobos to Rock Lee. Terrence through the years has just sucked. He was not able to put together a competent team. He was rather quiet and didn't even say much. During this time, there was growth, but not just in fantasy, but just as a man. Lobos experienced a lot from love to fatherhood to heartbreak. However, I've never known Lobos to be a quitter. No matter how bleak his situation was, he found a way by any means necessary. And I speak on all this to say it can be a good thing and a bad thing. I think for any human, this is where things get tough. When you're desperate, you can make awful decisions. So fast forward, the Swag Surfing League is retired to pretty much show reverence for Slayer Ricky, because the league just would not be the same with a cornerstone of all of our lives passing away. However, it was a good way to keep in contact with friends, so a new league was found and I coined the name Pantheon. The first year of Pantheon, Terrence's team was decent. Things were looking up. A lot better team than what he had put together in the past. As I pondered to myself while drinking warm tap water and eating an apple as a cold wind blew through the abandoned church doors I call home, I pondered to myself, what had changed in Lobos? Did the COVID vaccine activate a dormant ability inside Terrence? Perhaps being punched in the face damaged some nerve endings inside his brain to give him a new ability? I'll never know exactly what happened or what changed, but the next year, which is now, his team, it's solid. His starter's insane, but with a bench of immense talent. It's obvious when you looked at Terrence's team, it was inspired by just going with taking chances on running backs and drafting solid wide receivers high. I think L attempted to mimic this also, but he failed. He didn't execute at the same level as Terrence. Terrence improved that concept. It was impressive, and it looked as if the stars had finally aligned and Lobos was due to finally appear in the Super Bowl and highly likely to win. But on the other side, remember when I said desperation can push you to make bad decisions? Well, in Ryan's case, it was the opposite. Ryan is not a rookie. When it comes to winning, and though he drafted a terrible team, he kept fishing for a catch. When Terrence lost to luck, his confidence was shook. He was winning, but making the incorrect starts. That doubt is what took Terrence down this dark, dark road. Ryan also has the eyes. Different eyes, but as Sasuke Uchiha put it, it's not how powerful the genjutsu is, it's how well it's used. Terrence was riding high before playing luck, but losing the luck due to his own doing, Terrence started to panic. He didn't know who to start. He was lost. He was on Facebook asking for help. He was down bad. His team was so good, but what do you do when you can't manage all these players? Which I continue to say, and I'll say in this video, it's odd. If you drafted and picked up said players, you should know their strengths and weaknesses, which made it apparent Terrence was following some sort of guide, and more than likely there was more information available that was locked behind a paywall. So rather than come up out his pocket and pay, Terrence figured I can wing it. Terrence eventually one night was struck with a brilliant idea. Instead of dropping players like L, how about I just trade all these good players to get them off my team? Then I won't have a choice who I have to start. Honestly, a brilliant idea. However, here's the tip. When you are trading a good player, you should be aiming for a lock-in starter, something you will never question. But Lobos literally said, no way, fuck that. I want to challenge. I want to push myself beyond my limits. Terrence began LARPing Dragon Ball Z as Cell. And just for people that don't know, because they're not nerdy, LARPing stands for live action roleplay. So you know there's kids that run with their hands behind their back and they think they're ninjas. That's Terrence. So he gave Ryan more than enough to turn his dog shit team into a threat, trading him a top 10 running back and a top 20 wide receiver for absolute shit. However, in Terrence's mind, he felt relief. He no longer had to make those tough decisions. He laid his head to rest and slept with no doubt in his mind. He believed he had saved his team. However, when Terrence woke up, his dream suddenly a nightmare. And not the Meek Mill dream and nightmares, like not that heat. No. His big trade was being ridiculed. It was Charlie Batch all over again. Fate had deemed 2 players this year, and I personally thought it was going to be Antonio, but I was wrong. It was Terrence. He was given wings and he flew well above everyone in the Heroes division. He was gliding into a Super Bowl, but Terrence flew too close to the sun and burned his wings. Now he's crippled going into the playoffs. Now, for most, you see a learning curve. Antonio fully took blame and realized I fucked up. Acknowledged the trade was not in his favor, but no, not Lobos. Lobos has doubled down and said he did it for content, which brings me on to an entirely different rant. Like, my next point is principles and how very few people actually stand on anything. Everything is for validation online from others and doing dumb pranks and dumb actions for attention. Well, this zeitgeist holds true for all mediums of social media interactions, not limited to just Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or TikTok. It's even in fantasy. So now we look. What's remaining? What's left of Lobos? Well, currently he's alive and well and really just has to wait and see. Currently he's thinking to himself, am I really an idiot? How can Tamir predict the future? How can Clayton predict the future? Could I really lose to Ryan? Is the entire league right this trade was a bad idea? And how do I feel fucking my big dog Roderick from making the playoffs when he's been struggling to be competitive in fantasy for well over the past 5 years, and he finally had a chance to go to the playoffs and Terrence fucks him? Now, in closing, let's talk about Ryan. Lastly, Ryan. I do not hate rip-off trades. Clayton has loved pushing the narrative about trading with me being a death sentence for all to avoid anyone trading with me. Now, let's be clear. This is mainly due to Clayton's own jealousy of my success, so he tried to handicap me as much as he could. I doubt this will happen to you, Ryan, because Clayton is exclusively a hater for me alone. What's that saying? Keep your friends close and your enemies. No. Keep your enemies close. Wait, is it keep your friends close and your enemies closer? Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's how you say it. So basically, though we're basically like frenemies. Like, though we're friends, Clayton is extremely jealous of just my ability to just strive and find success. It's crazy, honestly, like that he hates on me that bad. But I say all this to say, Ryan, that this is exclusive to me. He's not going to, harass you and build a narrative against you like he did me, because he only does this to me. I'm exclusive to this thing. I think it's just because usually I'm right and Clayton just doesn't like to be wrong, and he's usually wrong. I mean, I really don't know how else to explain his hate for me well over a decade. I mean, it's crazy, honestly. So I say all that to say, around, like, don't worry, Clayton, he won't do anything to you. The narrative, he won't push it. So, Ryan, if this trade, you end up in the Super Bowl, even if, I don't know, I'm close. I'm close to saying you don't even need to win the Super Bowl, but I feel like if you're gonna be the greatest, you gotta win the Super Bowl. So I respect it. I respect that you realize you were willing to do anything. And though you knew it was a rip-off trade, you say, you know what? If this grown-ass man is dumb enough to accept it, then fuck it. Like, I got to take advantage. Like, what else can I do? Just not be the greatest. Like, I literally named my team the greatest. So I respect you, by, like I said earlier, by any means necessary. It's two different spectrums, right? You got Terrence on the one hand that fucked himself by making the dumbest trade in his mind by any means necessary, not giving himself an opportunity. And then you got Ryan, which is just out there fishing, just trying to catch some dumbass that'll possibly take an unimaginable bad trade. And Ryan found it. So I like to say, like, I'm an excellent trader, but I mean, I'm outdone. This trade has put Ryan. I think Ryan is the greatest trader in fantasy history. He's the best. He's the best. It's I like to talk my shit, but I can't say I'm not on his level. I'm not. I've never made a trade that literally took me from missing the playoffs to making the play. I've never done that. Now, maybe you could say, like, oh, well, you didn't put yourself in that position, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, I've never made a trade of that kind of magnitude. Like, this is the greatest trade I've ever seen in fantasy. And if Ryan goes on to win the league, I'm willing to say he is the greatest fantasy player ever. Like, I step down. I salute you, sir. I give you all, the respect and admiration, because that trade is it's amazing. So anyway, well done. Let this video be an acknowledgement to all that are watching. You only lose when you stop fighting. Ryan never quit and found someone to bless him immensely. Also, I know trading can be scary. No one wants to be a fool. But look at life. If you never take a chance, how can you expect change? I speak from real life experience. If you want to change your situation, you need to take chances and put yourself out there. Failure is the greatest teacher. If you never fail, how can you grow immensely? Those that have been handed their success will not be able to relate. But for those of us that are self-made and understand what it took, I say all of this to say, take chances. Do not live in fear of losing out on a trade. At least you tried. I commend all players that trade and are actively attempting to make themselves better. I have not always won every trade, but I've tried because I saw something. And even in this situation, how poor it worked out for Antonio or how poor it worked out for Terrence, at least they tried. They tried to do something, and all they can do is possibly grow from these experiences. Because if they would have just stood still, hey man, how are they ever going to take chances to possibly propel themselves into a championship? To end things out, shout out to Lobos, man. He continues to make history. I mean, not history for winning, but history for being a spectacle. In the current day we live in, people would much rather have clout and likes and the illusion of money than actually have money themselves. I hope you enjoyed just kind of a mix. I wrote some of this down and then I freestyled a lot of it. I changed quite a bit of it because just with seeing that Ryan is literally going to beat Terrence this week, it kind of changed some of the angles I was gonna run with, because I didn't think wow, like it's just really embarrassing. It's embarrassing, and I just feel bad for like, it is amazing that Terrence had a strong team and he would have had to play Ryan or Roderick, and he said, nah. Even in Roderick's team, you can go look at how many points he was averaging. He said, nah, fuck that. I don't even want to go against Roderick. That's too easy. Ryan, here's a sensu bean. It's crazy, bro. It's truly crazy. I've never seen a trade like this. Like, I can reference some trades right now, but the thing that makes some of those trades, and I talked to Clayton about this, it was like, at least those trades you can say everyone was new to fantasy. So like when you think about like the Donovan McNabb trade, it was like, was it a bad trade? Yeah, but you gotta also think like that was like the second or first, that wasn't even the second, that was the first year any of us had ever played fantasy. So it's like, was it bad? Yeah, but also you're like, you don't really know what you're doing. Like, we're talking about Terrence like has a decade of fantasy experience, and he thought this was good. It just truly shows that Ryan is the greatest trader ever. No one's greater than him. He's the best. And I want to say once he beats Terrence in the playoffs and goes to the Super Bowl, because more than likely Ryan's gonna have to play Clayton. He's gonna wash Clayton. Then he's gonna play Terrence. He's gonna wash Terrence. Then he's gonna go to the Super Bowl. If Ryan then wins the Super Bowl, I'm calling him the greatest. I'm just saying it right now. Like, you'd like, props, y'all could say like, man, like, get off Ryan, like, we give him all this credit. I don't know. I just respect the degree of difficulty to be out, like, without those players. Like, he stands no chance. And for someone in your own division, for you to trick them, for you to convince them that you're their ally when they're in your own division, like, imagine the genjutsu. Imagine the speech he had to give him to convince him that this was a good idea. Yeah, I mean, I'm in your division, but I mean, I'm no threat. Like, just imagine that. And then don't just imagine it like, wow, like, yeah, that's crazy. Who would believe that? Like, no. He believed it. He believed it. He could have had to go against Roderick. He said, Roderick, I think, is 7th in points scored. He said, nah, fuck that, son. Nah, I want to go against Ryan, the guy that won last year, the guy that went to a Super Bowl and won last year. I want to go against him. And you know what? I want to just go again. Let me gift him some play. I keep going back. I'm sorry. It's just, it truly blows my mind. So I figured I would just release this, get this part up first, and then for those interested, at the end, I have some anime shit, the Cell fight, for the people that are not aware of the Cell fight and like what that means. Like what happened? Like what we keep saying, like he's live action role playing a Cell. What that means? I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the video, and then basically I'm gonna have a little quote there with kind of discussing the difference between a king and a horse, because I think this will be very important. Perhaps it could help Terrence realize that, because he talks very bold. He talks as if he's won before. So hopefully this will kind of humble him, and he'll realize, like, maybe I should stop talking and I should start listening. All right, that's all I got for you guys. Hope you enjoy. Hit that like, comment, all that good shit. All right, bye.
What's the difference between a king and his horse? What the hell are you saying? And I'm not talking about obvious stuff, like one's an animal and one's a person, or one has 2 legs and one has 4. Form, ability, and power. That's what's puzzling. If their form, ability, and power are exactly the same, why is it that one becomes the king and leads them into battle, while the other becomes the horse and carries the king? So what's the characteristic that distinguishes these 2 beings? There's only one answer. Instinct! In order for identical beings to get stronger and gain power, they need to develop a killer instinct. And that instinct is mostly forged in battle. They must develop an insatiable hunger to engage in battle. They must live to mercilessly crush, shred, and slice their enemies. This thirst for power is not an unnatural desire. In fact, it forms the very essence of our being. Deep within our body lies the honed instinct to dominate and slaughter our enemies. My friend, you don't have that.
Hey, yo, niggas get shot every day, B. You be aight, nigga. You tough, right?